Hey guys, it's MiracleMAX. Welcome back. Today we've got a bit of a random one. We're going to have a look at a leaking fridge. Now that sounds kind of weird. It's a common fault with water underneath the fridge. So let's see if we can fix it. So can you see that? There's a puddle of water on the freezer side of a combo fridge. Combo fridge is a combination of a fridge and a freezer. What's causing this problem?
Well, I don't know, Max. Perhaps you'd like to explain. Sure, why not?
So you can see here at the bottom of the freezer there's blocks of ice everywhere, isn't there? And of course when that starts to melt, drips down past the seal onto the floor. But what actually causes that? This particular style of freezer is a self-defrosting freezer. So in theory it should just defrost itself and we shouldn't end up with all this water everywhere. Let's have a look at how it works. So this is by no means the only model that this problem occurs on, but for this particular exercise we're looking at a Samsung SRS 536NP. Of course, safety first, we turn off our PowerPoint and remove the plug. We'll have to remove this back plate that covers our condenser so that we can access the drain tube. This is the drain tube that comes from the freezer assembly in here into our condenser assembly, and that heats up the water that goes down in that tray. Once that water is heated up in the tray, then it will evaporate, and that's what makes it a self-defrosting fridge. Problem being is that inside this tube it will freeze up. The water won't drain away properly and it freezes up higher and higher and higher till eventually inside it will freeze up and then the water will just drip outside the door, which is the issue that we're having here. At this point we can just remove that tube because that'll have water coming out here shortly when I start to thaw out the ice that's blocking this tube. Everybody okay with that?
Sweet.
Our next step is to remove those bottom drawers, all that food up there, right up to where the ice cubes are. Hey, that's not my ice cream, surely?
It's not mine, man. It must be somebody else's.
You can see all that ice that's accumulated on the bottom of the tray, and if we come up here you can see this is the panel that we need to remove, that one that goes all the way up to there. These little caps come off and in behind there is a Phillips screw. If you have a look on the corner there you can see ice has developed and you can see a trail that goes down further and further onto the bottom tray, and that is actually the cause of the water on the ground. But what's causing that problem up further? These back panels can be a little hard to get off. The reason being is that they're frozen into place. So we need to get a flat blade screwdriver in behind there and just gently lever it out all the way up to the top. Don't force it, it's easy to break the plastic around the edges, so just gently pull it towards you. Once you've got one area up, you can just gently work up and down until it comes off. As long as you've got all the screws out, of course. There we go. Just take it nice and slow so you don't break the plastic panel. There we go. So that's the panel that comes off, and yeah, it tends to freeze to the back of the evaporator, that fella there. There's our major problem right there. That there is meant to be part of the defrost system, and that is frozen solid. It's not draining away around to the back of the condenser at all through that tube that I showed you previously, but the water stays there and doesn't drain away, and of course then it turns to a block of ice. Afterwards it freezes. If there's any water, it trickles down to the bottom of the tray, like that, and eventually out onto the floor. Not happy Jan. Now unfortunately this is the long-winded process. We have to unfreeze this or thaw it all with wet rags with hot water on it, or a syringe when we get to the tube itself. But I'll show you progressive shots of what I'm doing. It's a bit hard to show you exactly what I'm doing because as a camera, believe it or not, you're in the road. I'll do little progressive shots just to give you an indication of how the job's done. And because we're going to be dealing with a lot of melted ice, water, it's a good idea to have a couple of crusty towels lying around that you can soak all that up with. So, time to put in some warm water, try and defrost that block of ice over there. So just to start the process, we're going to put a rag on there with hot water on it, just to encourage the ice to melt. That needs to be changed regularly with another one, and you keep going until we end up with no ice. Certainly not a quick process. Getting part of the bottom section of the ice that's flattened out here on the bottom tray, I've been able to use just a plastic spatula, and most of it's come up, so it's just a matter of lifting it out. Whereas up the top here, I'm still using that rag method for now. Can you see what's written there? It says heater. So being an auto defrost system, it will heat up this element that's under here, which will heat up the evaporator pipe, and as that comes down there, it will drain into that hole, which at this point in time is blocked, then go out to the condenser area, which will drain out the back there. Some people use hair dryers to heat up the process. I'm a little hesitant to do that simply because we're going from something that's totally frozen to, hot air, so it may cause damage, I don't know. I'm just going to go old school in this way and just take it nice and slow. It is coming apart though, so we're getting bits of ice coming off now, so that's good. I will use a syringe and hot water shortly when I can see the hole exposed. Not sure how close I can get to this little heater, but you can see it up underneath. They're usually between 350 to 600 watts in power. They run for about 15 minutes, probably about 4 times a day. And what that does is stop any frost accumulating on our evaporator, and because it has a fan that circulates the cold air, it will be less inclined to form ice. And of course, as this drips down off the heater down through here, in theory, once it's not blocked of course, that will go down our drain tube. So we're getting a lot of the ice off here guys, which is great, but that little hole back there is getting blocked, and that causes the problem. As this water drips down onto here, this should be the lowest point, and it should go down our drain tube. Sooner or later we're going to get water coming out of this drain hose, which is great, and it should go into that tray below. But I'd much prefer to drain it and get rid of it entirely so we don't have a mess to clean up. So I've just got a drain tube there, stick it into a saucepan or container of some description. Once it starts to leak out, then we won't have water all over the floor. Okay, so the next step I'm going to do is use a syringe of hot water. Some people use turkey basters and stuff like that, just to try and force some hot water down into this drain hose, and in turn that should come out the hose out the back that I showed you before. My camera's just been dripped on, how rude. If you have a close look at the drain pipe, you can see that there's aluminium covering it. They've just got a couple of slots put on it, which is pretty much ridiculous. It's not opening enough area for the ice to melt and then drain away through that tube. I'm going to cut away those little aluminium slots, and hopefully that'll open up the area for the defrosted ice to melt away through to that tube. I've just cut away those sections of, this is actually Gauff by the looks of things anyway, not aluminium, but I've just cut away those little restrictions that should make it easier for the defrosted water to drain through the hose. I actually bought off eBay this particular clip that was meant to sort out the issue. This goes into the drain hole itself and sits over the heater, but that doesn't suit my design at all. Unfortunately, it's the wrong one for my model. So I thought, well, I might put this little fella that I've made, and I've seen other people make something similar, just hook that over the evaporator pipe, and as the heater heats up the evaporator, that would help it go down the hole. But when I saw those restrictions, I thought, well, maybe that's the issue all told. Perhaps it's just the fact that it's building up a little bit of ice there. That becomes a plug, and then it won't allow the ice to melt and to dribble down past the condenser and evaporate. So what I'm going to do is leave it like this for now. I have had a few shots at this unsuccessfully, but I haven't modified it in any way. So after this particular modification, I'll see if that sorts out the issue. If not, we'll have to see what else we can do. I can't see anything on the net for this particular model of sorting out this issue, but I reckon that restriction of those two little pieces of galv iron that they haven't actually cut out correctly will cause the major issue. So now that that's out the road, hopefully that'll sort our problem. There we go, starting to drain, excellent. So we've cleared that blockage of ice, so that's a good sign. And hopefully what I've done by cutting out those little restrictions, it should make it flow a lot better. Hopefully we'll stop this situation happening again. So all we have to do now is turn it on and make sure everything works okay. Lights on and compressor's kicked in, so somebody's home. I'm only really going to know if this has been a successful repair by waiting for a few weeks to see if that ice accumulates or if it drains away back through the condenser at the back of the fridge. The fridge. I'll give it a couple of weeks, then I can let you know if it's been a successful repair or not. So it's been about 3 weeks since I did this modification, and check it out. Look at that. No water, no ice, no nothing. I think it's cured. The poor man's air conditioner is back again. Oh, look, an ice block. I hope you enjoyed this random repair and modification, guys. It was a little bit out of my comfort zone, but it was well worth the effort. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Give it a like and feel free to comment down below. Until next time, this is MiracleMAX. I'll catch you later.